Hey everyone, welcome back to Ackernews. We had a pretty big break there, about 2 weeks, but we're back at it and I'm pretty excited. I really enjoy doing these, so it's good to be back in the swing of things here. As far as news goes this week, there wasn't too much, but we still got some pretty big news from Nintendo specifically, as I'm assuming most of you know, where there was the Animal Crossing Direct and the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack video that came out. We'll be talking about those a little bit later, but we're going to start off as usual with our rapid fire news. We've got 5 topics, not 7 this week, even though we did 7 for every other week, but we got 5 good topics to talk about here, so let's get right into that. Starting off with a little bit of a weird one here. Weird, funny, whatever you want to call it. There's this whole situation going on with Elon Musk and Genshin Impact, if you guys have heard about this. So apparently the official Genshin Impact Twitter account changed their name from like the in-game guide character's name to just @Genshin Impact. And then they said that they would change it back if 500,000 people followed this other account, which was like some other in-game character that was called Elon Musk. So obviously you can see the connection between Elon Musk and Elon Musk. And then if 1 million people followed that account, then they would follow Elon Musk, which is like, how is that any sort of incentive? I don't know, but sure. And then if 3 million people follow, they'll invite Elon Musk to stream Genshin Impact, which is like what? Who thought of this? And then 5 million people, the CEO of MiHoYo will invite Elon Musk to visit their headquarters. It's just like, I don't understand. What is the incentive to doing this? I guess they thought that like, oh, people really like Elon Musk. They always follow whatever he says. So if we do this thing with Elon Musk, obviously everyone will just follow our second account or whatever. But it just didn't work out at all. There was like 20,000 quote retweets of just like, this doesn't make any sense. This is stupid. This is out of touch. All this stuff, and it was pretty bad. Let's just put it that way. And as you might have guessed, after all this backlash, they shut down the promotion and they're no longer going in this direction with whatever they were doing with this other account. So at least there's a plus side to all this. They shut it down. Next up, we've got some sales numbers for the Switch OLED out of Japan, and it seems to be doing pretty well. It's sold 138,409 units according to Famitsu's sale charts, I believe. And according to Kotaku, that makes the Switch OLED a, quote, big hit in Japan. So they didn't give any like comparison numbers to like the base model Switch in its launch week or the Switch Lite in its launch week, but they still said that it's doing pretty well. I don't believe we know how well it's doing over here in the US yet, but in the UK it apparently accounted for 70% of Switch sales in the first couple of days that it was released. So it's doing pretty well over there as well. As for how I personally feel about that, well, personally, I'm not the biggest fan of the Switch OLED. I don't know. It's just not for me. I get that there's people out there that like the bigger screen and the vibrancy of the colors, but I would have preferred something that wasn't just like a small step. I would rather have like a much bigger step forward in terms of like the Switch design and that type of thing. The processing power, the display, all that type of stuff, so it's not for me, but I guess if it's doing well, fine. Maybe they'll get enough money to make something that is actually better than the base Switch model by like a significant degree. Next up, we've got something that hits pretty close to home for me personally. It's an interview between Naoki Yoshida, the producer for Final Fantasy XIV, and PC Gamer, where he talks about the exodus of players from World of Warcraft into Final Fantasy XIV. If you didn't know, Final Fantasy XIV is now the most popular MMORPG on the market, with about 24 million players and growing, I guess. I think, on Steam there's like 47,000 active players at a peak over the last like week or something like that. And that's pretty good. And this, popularity is due at least in part to a lot of the allegations at Blizzard, all this, these harassment suits and that type of thing. I know that for me personally, that's the main reason why I moved over from World of Warcraft to Final Fantasy XIV. I just honestly couldn't support the company anymore, so I just moved over to Final Fantasy XIV. And I tried it out, and I really enjoyed it. I played it in the past, and then I stopped playing, but now that I came back, there's a lot more content there for me to sort of, dig my teeth into. So I'm enjoying the game quite a bit. I just finished Shadowbringers main story, the most recent expansion, and I'll be, I'm waiting for the new expansion in November. I think it's November 23rd it comes out. I'm waiting for that. So that's going to be pretty fun. But talking about this interview here, Naoki Yoshida said that he doesn't like this sort of atmosphere of people how do you even put this? He doesn't like people sort of comparing World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy and saying like, oh, this one's better than the other, or this person, he moved over to this game, so now he has to play this game, and you can't change games, you can't move over from one thing to another, you can't stop playing Final Fantasy and move over to something else, you can't stop playing something else, move over to Final Fantasy, so on and so forth. So he just feels that, I guess, you just relax, just play the game, enjoy it. If you like it, keep playing it. If you don't, you don't have to keep playing it if you don't want to. And, to some degree, I kind of agree. There's a lot of toxicity that can come from these sort of like, what do you call it? Like a team culture, like a sort of a sports team type culture, where it's like, I'm on this team, I have to support this game, and then I can't be associated with this game. I hate this game, kind of like the whole console war situation where it's like you can't play just other systems, So, but I do think that Naoki Yoshida takes it to a bit of a higher degree than is probably necessary. It almost seems like he doesn't want you to play Final Fantasy XIV if you come from another game. It has like the opposite effect. It's like he's almost saying like, oh, you don't have to do it if you don't want to, like to a degree where it's like, do you really want me to play the game or not? So it's a little weird there, but I do think that he has it right where, we shouldn't have this sort of competitive nature with these other games, at least when it's not sort of involving all of this, these allegations and whatever. But yeah, there you go. And now to lighten the mood a little bit, let's talk about a couple of parks that are going to be opening up in Fukushima Prefecture in Japan that are centered around Pokemon. Specifically, it looks like Chansey and other pink Pokemon are going to be the main theme of these parks. There's going to be 4 in total, coming to 4 different cities across Fukushima. The first one is going to be Namie, which is, I think, coming up pretty soon, the opening of that park. I think it's in December, if I remember correctly. And based on the concept art we have here, there's a big, gigantic sort of Chansey play room, I'm assuming it is, with a bunch of slides coming out of it. You got like a little Lickitung slide, a sandbox with Happiny, I believe is the name. There's also a swing set and a bunch of other Pokemon-themed things, at least in this concept art for this specific park. And it looks pretty cool. It's something that, I'm not a kid, but I would still like to go and see this if it was something that, existed in my area, because it looks, I like Pokemon, it looks pretty interesting. I'd go check it out once, just to see what it's about. And I'm sure that kids would love this kind of thing, especially kids that are into Pokemon. So yeah, this looks pretty cool, and we got to keep an eye on this to see how it actually turns out in reality once it actually materializes in December, I believe. So that's pretty cool. And let's wrap things up for this week's Rapid Fire News by talking about Billy Mitchell. Probably not the name you were expecting to hear in this video, but here he is, the King of Kong himself. So apparently, he's actually going to court with Twin Galaxies. If you don't know what Twin Galaxies is, they're just like a high score organization that's been around for a really long time that sort of keeps track of high scores in various arcade games mostly, at least as far as I know. And Billy Mitchell had his high score in Pac-Man, I think it was a perfect score, revoked by Twin Galaxies and Guinness World Records. Since then, Guinness has reinstated his title, but Twin Galaxies hasn't, so he's taken them to court. I don't know. Honestly, personally, I don't believe anything that Billy Mitchell says. He just, seems like he cheated in a lot of things. At least that's like the perception that I have of him. So I really don't trust that he actually has these legitimate scores that he says he has. I don't know. I don't really care that much about the guy, but I don't know. I just think it's interesting that he's actually taken them to court over high scores of all things. It's just like, why? Who cares? It's a high score. Nobody cares about high scores anymore. So it's just a bizarre situation. And that wraps up our rapid fire news for this edition of Ackernews. But before we get into our main topics, I'd like to mention that this week's deal of the week is Okami HD, the Steam edition, which is $7.99 on Games Planet, their flash sale, for the next 5 days or so. So if you're interested in that, if you haven't played Okami or you have played it before and you want to play it again, this is honestly a pretty good deal. So I'll have the link in the description for you to get that if you want to, and I honestly really recommend the game. So if you're interested, definitely consider picking that up. It's a great deal. But without further ado, let's move on to the first of our main topics, the Animal Crossing New Horizons Direct that took place just yesterday, 10/15/2021. And there was quite a bit of stuff revealed here and talked about here, so let's go through this one by one, and I'll sort of give you my thoughts on these different topics. So the first thing they talked about was the 2.0 update to Animal Crossing New Horizons, which is said to be the last free DLC, at least the major DLC for Animal Crossing New Horizons. Now, there's, good and bad to this. The bad being that this is the last free update to Animal Crossing New Horizons. Everything past this is going to be paid DLC, at least as far as we can tell now. If there is going to be DLC after what they announced here, at least it'll probably be paid, which is not great. But, if it makes, good content and it's worth it, fine. Now, the good thing is that this is a pretty substantial update. There's stuff in this update that hadn't been in previous games. There's like actual new content, which is pretty cool. Like the shop island with all these different shops, and the new haircuts, the cooking, which looks... My favorite thing about this was the cooking somehow. It's just a new DIY thing that you can do, which is, sort of get ingredients, that stuff that you plant, and then make it into different dishes to sort of display or eat, I guess. I don't know. You eat it, doesn't really do much, but you display it on your table and you can display different types of food, which is really cool. So that was my favorite thing, just weirdly, but there was also a lot of stuff that people had been asking for, or they really, needed, like extra bank space, storage space. It's been upgraded from 2,400 to 5,000, which still, honestly, in my opinion, is not enough. You probably need like 10,000 at least. But at least it's been upgraded to, at least more than double what it was. There's also new gyroids, which look really cool. I love the gyroids in the older games, so I'm really happy to see that coming back. There's also Brewster, which a lot of people were asking for. You can go there and interact with your villagers and, scan amiibo cards in and interact with them to invite them in there. It's really cool. They really sort of brought Brewster into the game, the Roost, as it's called, in a really cool way, which is nice. Now, from the perspective of someone who hasn't played Animal Crossing in a really long time, I played the game like a ton when it first came out because I was, I really like Animal Crossing, I really enjoy the game, but I kind of got my island into, sort of an ideal situation. I had all the villagers that I wanted. I set up, the entire island the way that I wanted it to be. I, designed my house the way I wanted it to be. There was nothing really left for me to do. There wasn't enough interaction with the villagers and, the people in your actual island to sort of warrant going back into the game day after day after day. After a certain amount of time, it was kind of just a replay of everything. So, obviously they didn't add in what I wanted most, which was actual, like, sort of expansion of villager dialogue and, sort of things you can... Well, they had the thing where they can visit your house, or they can invite you over to their house, but it doesn't seem like that's going to be the biggest thing ever. It's at least something, but... definitely not what I was hoping for. I would have liked more sort of activities to do with your villagers. I guess they have the stretching thing too, but it's not the biggest deal there. I want more, more dialogue, I guess. More things to do that would actually, sort of warrant you coming back and playing every day, even after you've gotten your island into sort of like an ideal situation. Now, these other things that they added in, also, they sort of enticed me a little bit, like the cooking and the shop island and all this new content that they're adding in. That's pretty cool, but I don't know if it's enough to actually get me to play the game again. That's the thing, because I would have to do a lot of, work, and that would have to become another part of my, normal daily routine is, playing Animal Crossing. And then, in addition to doing like my Final Fantasy stuff, but setting that aside, it does look pretty cool. Now, the coolest thing for me personally was the new expansion, the paid DLC for Animal Crossing New Horizons that they announced after the free update. I believe it's $25, and it's the Animal Crossing New Horizons Happy Home Paradise, I believe it's called. Yes. And that looks really cool to me personally. I like the idea of sort of having a one-off thing where you can just like design a certain villager's house and they give you like specifications and you do that. And it seems really cool, like a side thing to do in the game. They needed something like that, like I was saying before. And the paid expansion also brings in some new stuff that you would want in your base game, like divider walls, different applications, counters, all this different type of furniture that you can get on the island. The DLC island, the Happy Home Paradise island. as well as a bunch of different characters for the game, which is pretty cool. So that's pretty cool. That's probably the biggest sort of interest to me in the Direct personally. Now this $24.99 US expansion for Animal Crossing New Horizons, the Happy Home Paradise, which releases on November 5th, along with the update, is also part of the expansion pack for Nintendo Switch Online, which just so happens to be our next topic. So let's talk about that, because it needs to be talked about. If it hasn't been talked about ad nauseum already by other people, but I'm going to talk about it too, because I want to. So, if you didn't already know, the Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack is going to be $49.99 US, and the family plan is going to be $79.99 US, $80 essentially. And that sort of blew a lot of people's minds, as well as my own, because I personally was expecting no more than a $10 increase. I thought $10 was like, whoa, that's a lot of money. That's way more than it's actually worth. So, Nintendo, they said, hey, I can do one better. We're going to raise the price by more than double, which was, kind of insane. Actually insane, actual insanity. But yeah, personally, I'm probably not going to buy this now just because of the price, right? I probably would have gotten it if it was like a $10 increase. But, now Nintendo's actually alienated a large part of their audience just because they decided, hey, we can get more money out of this. Yeah, let's do it. There was some other, some rumors, some sort of murmuring online about this might be due to the licensing with all the different companies to get these different games onto Nintendo Switch Online, but I still don't think that warrants a $30 increase, a more than double increase in price. I think a $10 increase still would have been enough to sort of get enough people in there, because you're getting people to not buy it, a large portion of people to not buy it by increasing the price so much. If you had it only a $10 increase, I feel like a lot more people would have bought it, and you would have had a similar profit margin, if not more. So I don't really know what's going on there, but I can't tell you the exact economics of the whole thing, but it does seem like a pretty weird decision to make, honestly. Now, this increase in price also is probably due to the fact that the Animal Crossing Happy Home Paradise is part of this expansion pack, which a lot of people found to be pretty weird, because not everyone's going to want to actually partake in that. So why would you make a paid DLC for a specific game that not everyone may have part of this expansion pack? That makes it cost more. It's just a really weird decision. They should at least have had another option to where you could just get the N64 and Sega Genesis. Ideally, you can just buy them separately. But if they had one for, the Sega Genesis N64, the Virtual Console stuff, and then one for everything with the Happy Home Paradise included at like a discounted price from what it normally would be, then I feel like that would be a better way to go. But they've, again, sort of alienated a large group of people that don't really care about Animal Crossing by including that in the expansion pack and making you pay this premium price, even if you don't want the things that are in it. You don't want all the specific things. So, the fact that it's sort of a bundle deal is definitely not the way to go, in my opinion. And another sort of grimy aspect to all of this is something that I brought up in my reaction to the actual announcement of the expansion pack. And that is that they didn't announce this until after a certain amount of time after the Direct, because they didn't want to sort of spoil the mood and get people mad at them then, as opposed to getting them mad at them now after all the Direct hype is over. They didn't want to sort of damper all that. They just separated it out to its own video that they just kind of just launched. They said, oh, here it is. We're not going to say anything about it. We're just going to launch it. There it is. And so, it's a little bit grimy, honestly. Like I said in the video, I literally said when I was reacting to it, I said that, they're not putting it here because they don't want you to get mad about it now. So that was one of the things that sort of tipped me off that it may be a larger price increase than that I might have been expecting, or that other people might have been expecting, because they just, they were kind of being secretive about it, which is never a good sign from a big company. It's just going to be something bad. So a little bit grimy there from Nintendo. But, what do you expect at this point, honestly? So, yeah, I'm probably not going to get this. I like the individual things. I'm one of the people that actually is interested in Happy Home Paradise, but I'm still not going to get this just out of principle for all of the griminess that Nintendo sort of went about in terms of releasing this, announcing this expansion pass, and, you know, putting these different things in there and forcing you to pay this larger price, and not to mention the actual extreme price that they're trying to charge for all of this. So I'm not going to be partaking in that personally, but hey, I'm sure a lot of people will, honestly. I'm sure there are tons of people out there that don't really follow gaming news, that don't really care about this. They're just going to say, oh, you know, I'll get that. Sure, why not? It's Nintendo. And that's, you know, it is what it is. But personally, I can't support this type of griminess. I've said it a lot. It's pretty grimy. So I'm not going to support it. And with that, we come to the end of this edition of Ackernews. I think I've got it down to a pretty good time this week. We're about 20 minutes, which is what I was kind of aiming for. Probably going to be, you know, a little bit longer with this outro now, but, you know, whatever. So yeah, I'm happy to be back doing the news this week. And, you know, I hope to continue going forward with the news next week and further on. So if you guys enjoyed the video, consider giving it a like. It's always greatly appreciated and helps me out a ton. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, consider subscribing as well. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and I'll see you in the next one. Ack out. Oh yeah, there's no Gamer of the Week this week. I honestly couldn't find anybody that was relevant enough to actually include in the Gamer of the Week. So this week, you know, I guess I'll just make it myself. I'm the Gamer of the Week because I got to level 80 in Final Fantasy XIV. I think that's a pretty big accomplishment. So I'm the Gamer of the Week this week. This week's Gamer of the Week is Ack. So yeah, take that, everybody out there that didn't win.